What if I told you that in your lifetime, you could be among the first generation of humans to call another planet home? What if moving to Mars wasn't just some distant science fiction dream, but an actual choice you or your children might face? And what if, despite everything you've been told about Earth being our precious blue marble, Mars might actually offer advantages that Earth simply can't provide anymore? If you enjoyed this mind-bending thought, hit that like button. Also, 99% of you that watch our videos are here to subscribe, so kindly hit the subscribe button. It helps our video reach more people who enjoy content like this. Welcome to the most controversial question in space exploration. Could Mars actually be a better place to live than Earth? Now, before you dismiss this as crazy talk, I need you to hear me out. Because what I'm about to tell you is based on actual scientific research, real plans by space agencies and private companies, and discoveries that are happening right now in 2025 that are changing everything we thought we knew about the red planet. This isn't about escaping Earth or giving up on our home planet. This is about understanding that humanity might have options we never imagined, and some of those options might surprise you. So buckle up, because we're about to journey 140 million miles from home to explore a world that could become humanity's second home. And by the end of this, you might find yourself seriously wondering, should I start packing for Mars? Let's start with the most important question. Why would anyone even consider leaving Earth, the only planet we know that supports life, for a cold, barren, hostile world like Mars? The answer is more complex and more fascinating than you might think. And it starts with understanding something crucial about Earth that most people don't realize. Our beautiful blue planet might not be as safe or as permanent as we think. Dr. Elon Musk, CEO of SpaceX, puts it bluntly. The probable lifespan of human civilization is much greater if we're a multi-planet species compared to a single-planet species. If we're confined to one planet, inevitably there will be some extinction event. Now, before you think this is just one person's opinion, let me tell you what the scientific community has been saying. Research published in recent years has outlined multiple scenarios that could threaten human civilization on Earth, and some of them are more likely than you might think. There are the obvious threats: asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, and global pandemics. Then there are the slower-moving but equally serious threats: climate change, resource depletion, overpopulation, and environmental degradation. But here's what really keeps scientists awake at night. We're putting all our eggs in one basket. Every single human being, every achievement of human civilization, every piece of art and music and literature and science, it's all on one planet. One really big disaster, and it could all be gone. Dr. Robert Zubrin, aerospace engineer and founder of the Mars Society, explains it this way. Mars is the only planet in the solar system that has the resources necessary to support a civilization. It's not just about survival, it's about giving human civilization room to grow, evolve, and develop in ways that might not be possible if we're all confined to Earth. Now, I know what you're thinking. Mars, that frozen desert planet with no air and deadly radiation? How could that possibly be better than Earth? And you're right to be skeptical. At first glance, Mars seems completely inhospitable. The average temperature is -80 degrees Fahrenheit. The atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide and so thin that your blood would literally boil if you stepped outside without a spacesuit. There's no magnetic field to protect you from cosmic radiation, no liquid water on the surface, no breathable air. By every measure we currently use, Mars is a terrible place for humans. But here's where things get interesting. Because when scientists and engineers look at Mars, they don't just see the problems, they see the solutions. They see potential. They see opportunity. They see resources that Earth is running out of, and they see advantages that Earth simply can't offer. Let me explain what I mean by walking you through some discoveries that have completely changed how we think about Mars. First, let's talk about water. For decades, scientists thought Mars was bone dry, a dead, desiccated world where water had vanished billions of years ago. But in 2025, groundbreaking research published in the journal National Science Review revealed something absolutely incredible. Scientists analyzing seismic data from NASA's InSight lander discovered evidence of liquid water existing deep underground on Mars. Not just a little bit of water, we're talking about enough water to flood the entire Martian surface with an ocean 1,700 to 2,560 feet deep. That's roughly the same volume of water contained in Antarctica's entire ice sheet. Think about that for a moment. Mars, the dry planet, might have more accessible water than we ever imagined. And recent studies from July 2025 found that Martian glaciers are mostly pure water ice, making them potentially perfect resources for future Mars settlers. Dr. Vashan Wright from UC San Diego's Scripps Institution of Oceanography, who led the groundwater study, explains, "Understanding the Martian water cycle is critical for understanding the evolution of the climate, surface, and interior. A useful starting point is to identify where water is and how much is there. But water is just the beginning. Mars has something even more valuable: raw materials. You see, Earth is running out of certain critical resources. Rare earth elements essential for smartphones, computers, and electric vehicles are becoming increasingly scarce. Mining these materials on Earth causes massive environmental damage. Political conflicts often center around control of resource-rich regions. But Mars? Mars is essentially an untapped treasure chest of resources. The Martian soil, called regolith, contains iron oxide. That's what gives Mars its red color. But it also contains silicon, magnesium, aluminum, calcium, and potassium. These are the building blocks for everything from construction materials to rocket fuel. Mars's atmosphere, though thin, is 95% carbon dioxide. Now, that might sound bad, but CO2 is actually incredibly useful. Using a process called the Sabatier reaction, you can combine CO2 from the atmosphere with hydrogen to create methane fuel and water. This means Mars colonists could literally make rocket fuel out of thin air. And here's something that will blow your mind. Mars has massive deposits of ice at both poles and scattered throughout the mid-latitudes. This ice isn't just frozen water, it's also frozen carbon dioxide, or dry ice. Both are incredibly valuable resources for a Martian colony. Dr. Robert Zubrin calculated that with current technology, a small crew landing on Mars could produce all the fuel they need for their return journey using only Martian resources. No need to bring fuel from Earth, which would make the mission exponentially cheaper and more feasible. But resources are just one advantage. Let me tell you about something even more interesting: the Martian day. A day on Mars, called a sol, lasts 24 hours and 39 minutes. That's remarkably close to an Earth day. This might not seem like a big deal, but it's actually huge for human biology. You see, humans evolved on a planet with a 24-hour day-night cycle. Our circadian rhythms, our internal biological clocks, are finely tuned to this cycle. When this cycle gets disrupted, like when we experience jet lag or work night shifts, it can cause serious health problems. The Moon, by contrast, has a day that lasts 29.5 Earth days. Imagine trying to maintain a normal sleep-wake cycle when daytime lasts for 2 weeks, followed by 2 weeks of darkness. It would wreak havoc on human biology. But Mars, its day is so similar to Earth's that human colonists could maintain relatively normal circadian rhythms. You could wake up with the sunrise, work during daylight hours, and sleep during darkness, just like on Earth. Dr. Andrew Coates, a planetary scientist at University College London, notes, "The similarity of the Martian day to Earth's is one of Mars's greatest advantages for human colonization. It's one less thing we have to drastically adapt to." Now, let's talk about something that might sound counterintuitive. Mars's lower gravity could actually be an advantage.
Mars has about 38% of Earth's gravity. That means if you weigh 100 pounds on Earth, you'd weigh only 38 pounds on Mars. At first, this seems like a problem, and it is for some things. Extended exposure to low gravity can cause muscle atrophy and bone density loss. But here's the flip side. Lower gravity means construction projects become much easier. Buildings can be taller and lighter. Moving heavy objects requires less energy. Launching rockets requires much less fuel. In fact, it takes only about 40% as much energy to reach orbit from Mars as it does from Earth. This is huge for Mars's potential as a hub for further space exploration. Imagine this. Once we establish a colony on Mars, it becomes the perfect launching point for missions to the asteroid belt, the outer solar system, and beyond. The lower gravity and thinner atmosphere make Mars an ideal spaceport. Dr. Chris McKay, a planetary scientist at NASA Ames Research Center, envisions Mars as humanity's gateway to the solar system. He explains, once we're on Mars, the rest of the solar system opens up to us in ways that aren't practical from Earth. But let me tell you about an advantage of Mars that most people never consider: freedom from Earth's constraints. On Earth, we're bound by centuries of established laws,
property rights, political systems, and social structures. We have nations and borders, complex regulatory frameworks, environmental restrictions, and deeply entrenched bureaucracies. But Mars? Mars is a blank slate. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 states that no nation can claim sovereignty over celestial bodies like Mars. This means that whoever goes to Mars gets to help create an entirely new civilization from scratch. New forms of government, new economic systems, new social structures, new ways of organizing human society. Think about what that means. Throughout human history, people have migrated to new lands seeking freedom, opportunity, and the chance to build something new. The American frontier, the Australian outback, the colonization of new continents. These movements shaped human civilization and created new opportunities for innovation and progress. Mars represents the ultimate frontier, a chance to not just start over, but to build better, to learn from humanity's mistakes and create societies that work better than what we have on Earth. Dr. Robert Zubrin writes, Mars is not just a place, it's an opportunity. It's a chance for humans to create a new branch of human civilization, one that might develop solutions to problems we can't solve on Earth because we're too constrained by existing systems. Now, I know some of you are thinking, this all sounds great, but you're glossing over some serious problems. What about the deadly radiation, the toxic soil, the lack of breathable air? You're absolutely right. These are serious challenges. But here's the thing, they're solvable challenges. And in some cases, they might actually lead to advantages that Earth doesn't have. Let's start with radiation. Mars lacks Earth's protective magnetic field, which means the surface is bombarded with cosmic radiation and solar particles. Long-term exposure to this radiation would definitely increase cancer risk and cause other health problems. But here's the solution. Mars colonists wouldn't live on the surface. They would live underground or in heavily shielded habitats. And this is where things get interesting. Recent research has shown that Martian lava tubes, natural underground tunnels formed by ancient volcanic activity, could provide perfect radiation-shielded habitats. Some of these lava tubes are enormous, big enough to contain entire cities. Living underground might sound claustrophobic, but consider this. Underground habitats would be naturally protected from radiation, extreme temperature swings, dust storms, and micrometeorite impacts. They would maintain stable temperatures year-round. They could be pressurized to Earth normal atmospheric pressure. In fact, some researchers argue that underground living might actually be superior to surface living in many ways. You'd have complete control over your environment, temperature, humidity, air quality, everything. You'd never deal with weather, seasons, or natural disasters. Dr. Chris McKay points out, on Earth, we spend most of our time indoors anyway.
In well-designed underground habitats on Mars, colonists could actually have more usable space and better quality of life than many people have in crowded cities on Earth. And here's something fascinating. The psychological impact of underground living might not be as bad as you think. Studies of people living in underground bases in Antarctica and submarines have shown that humans can adapt remarkably well to enclosed environments, especially when those environments are well designed with proper lighting, green spaces, and recreational areas. In fact, some Mars habitat designs include massive atrium spaces with artificial lighting, hydroponic gardens, and parks. Imagine living in a climate-controlled underground city with perfect weather, no pollution, abundant green spaces, and easy access to the surface for excursions when you want them. Now let's talk about the atmosphere. Yes, Mars' atmosphere is too thin to breathe and composed mostly of CO2. But this is actually solvable with current technology. Spacesuits for Mars wouldn't need to be as bulky as the ones used on the Moon. Mars has enough atmospheric pressure that suits could be much more flexible and comfortable. They'd be more like pressurized flight suits than the bulky spacesuits we think of from Apollo missions. And inside habitats, we can create Earth-normal atmosphere using resources from Mars itself. Water can be split into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is used for breathing, and the hydrogen can be used for fuel. It's a closed-loop system that can sustain itself indefinitely. But here's where Mars has a potential advantage over Earth. On Earth, we're dealing with increasing air pollution, allergens, viruses, and other airborne hazards. In major cities, air quality is often dangerously poor. We have no control over what we breathe. But in Mars habitats, the air would be completely filtered and controlled. No pollution, no allergens, no disease-carrying particles. Every breath would be clean, pure, oxygen-rich air. For people with asthma, allergies, or respiratory issues, Mars habitats could actually provide better breathing conditions than Earth. Dr. Anja Diaz, a researcher studying closed life support systems, explains, "In a controlled habitat environment, we can maintain optimal air quality at all times. It's actually easier to create perfect breathing conditions in an enclosed Mars habitat than it is to control air quality in Earth's open atmosphere." Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the distance from Earth. Mars is, at its closest approach, 34 million miles from Earth. At its farthest, it's 250 million miles away. Even with the fastest current spacecraft, a trip to Mars takes about 7 months. This means that Mars colonists would be essentially on their own. If something goes wrong, help from Earth won't arrive for months or years. Communication has a delay of up to 24 minutes each way. You can't just hop on a plane and fly home for the holidays. This sounds terrible, right? But here's another perspective. What if this isolation is actually an advantage? Throughout human history, some of the most remarkable innovations and developments have happened in isolated communities that had to be self-reliant. When you can't depend on external help, you become ingenious, resourceful, and innovative in ways that comfortable societies rarely achieve. Mars colonists would need to develop closed-loop life support systems, efficient resource recycling, and sustainable food production. They'd need to solve problems that we've been unable or unwilling to solve on Earth because we've always had the option of just using more resources. These solutions developed for Mars could then be brought back to Earth to help solve our sustainability challenges. Mars colonization could actually help save Earth by forcing us to develop technologies and practices that we desperately need. Dr. Bruce Jakosky from the University of Colorado Boulder notes, "The challenges of living on Mars will drive innovation in ways that could benefit humanity across the board. Closed-loop life support, efficient resource use, renewable energy systems, these are all things we need on Earth too." And there's another aspect of distance that's worth considering: perspective. Astronauts who have seen Earth from space often report a profound shift in their worldview, a phenomenon called the overview effect. They see our planet as a fragile, interconnected whole, and it changes how they think about humanity, politics, and our place in the universe. Imagine the perspective shift that would come from living on another planet entirely. From Mars, Earth is just a bright blue star in the sky. The political divisions, the tribal conflicts, the petty disagreements that dominate Earth politics, all of it becomes meaningless when seen from 140 million miles away. Mars colonists would develop a truly cosmic perspective on humanity. They would think of themselves not as Americans or Chinese or Europeans, but as humans, perhaps even as Martians. This shift in perspective could be exactly what humanity needs to mature as a species. Now let me tell you about one of the most exciting advantages of Mars: the opportunity for scientific discovery. Mars is a planet-sized laboratory for understanding planetary science, geology, climate dynamics, and potentially even biology. Every rock, every canyon, every ice cap holds clues to the history of the solar system and the possibilities for life beyond Earth. Recent discoveries have made Mars even more intriguing from a scientific perspective. In April 2025, scientists announced evidence of liquid water existing deep beneath the Martian surface. This raises incredible questions. Could life exist in these underground water reservoirs? Did life once thrive on Mars when it had a thicker atmosphere and liquid water on the surface? Could Martian microbes still exist today in protected underground environments? Dr. Vishon Wright, whose team made the groundwater discovery, states, "Establishing whether there is life on Mars is one of the most important questions in science. Mars may very well be the best place in our solar system to look for present-day life beyond Earth." Imagine being part of the generation that discovers alien life, even if it's just microbes. Imagine the scientific papers that would be written, the Nobel Prizes that would be awarded, the fundamental shift in human understanding that would result. And Mars colonists wouldn't just be conducting research, they'd be living it. Every day would bring new discoveries, new challenges to solve, new territories to explore. Compare that to the routine of daily life on Earth, where most of us spend our time in offices and homes repeating the same activities day after day. On Mars,
You'd be a pioneer, an explorer, a scientist, an engineer, a builder of new worlds. Every Mars colonist would be part of one of the most significant endeavors in human history. Dr. Andy Weir, author of The Martian, captured this sentiment perfectly. Mars is the next logical step in human expansion into space. The people who go there will be the pioneers of our age, the equivalent of the explorers who crossed oceans and mapped new continents. It's going to be amazing. But let me tell you about an advantage of Mars that might surprise you: weather. Now, I know what you're thinking. Mars has terrible weather. Massive global dust storms that can last for months. Temperatures that swing wildly between day and night. No protection from solar radiation. But here's the thing. Mars weather is predictable in ways that Earth weather isn't. Mars doesn't have oceans, which on Earth create complex, chaotic weather patterns that are difficult to forecast. Mars doesn't have the complex interactions between land, sea, and atmosphere that make Earth weather so unpredictable. This means that on Mars, you can predict weather conditions weeks or even months in advance with high accuracy. You can plan around dust storm seasons. You can anticipate temperature changes. You have control and predictability that Earth's weather simply doesn't offer. And remember, Mars colonists would spend most of their time in controlled environments anyway. The weather outside becomes less relevant when you live underground or in sealed habitats where the temperature is always comfortable, the air is always clean, and you're protected from all external conditions. Compare this to Earth, where climate change is making weather increasingly extreme and unpredictable. Hurricanes, floods, droughts, heat waves, wildfires. These are becoming more common and more severe. In many parts of Earth, the climate is becoming genuinely dangerous. A well-designed Mars habitat could actually provide more stability and safety from environmental threats than many places on Earth. Now let's talk about something that might seem mundane but is actually crucial: food. On Earth, our food system is incredibly complex and vulnerable. We depend on specific climate conditions, massive inputs of water and fertilizers, complex global supply chains, and stable political conditions. Climate change threatens to disrupt all of this. But on Mars, food production would happen in controlled environments using hydroponics or aeroponics, growing plants without soil using mineral nutrient solutions in water or mist. These systems are incredibly efficient, using 90% less water than traditional agriculture and producing food year-round regardless of external conditions. Research conducted on the International Space Station has already demonstrated that we can grow nutritious, delicious food in space using these methods. Astronauts have grown and eaten lettuce, radishes, peppers, and even flowers in zero gravity. On Mars, with 38% gravity and controlled environments, food production could actually be more reliable and sustainable than it is on Earth. You'd never have crop failures due to drought, flood, or unexpected weather. You'd never deal with pests or plant diseases, at least not the Earth varieties. Every nutrient input would be carefully controlled and optimized for maximum growth. Some scientists even argue that Martian-grown food could be more nutritious than Earth food because growing conditions could be perfectly optimized for nutrient content. Dr. Joya Massa, a life science project scientist at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, explains, "Growing food on Mars isn't just possible, it could actually be superior to Earth agriculture in many ways. We can control every variable, optimize every input, and produce food with perfect nutrition and no contamination." And here's something fascinating. Martian colonists would need to recycle absolutely everything, including waste. Human waste, food scraps, gray water, all of it would be processed and recycled. This creates a closed-loop system where nothing is wasted and everything serves a purpose. This might sound unpleasant, but it's actually elegant and efficient. And it's exactly the kind of system we need to develop on Earth to become sustainable. Now let me tell you about the economic opportunities on Mars, because this is where things get really interesting. The first successful Mars colonies would essentially own the rights to an entire planet's worth of resources. Even under international space law, companies and individuals can extract and use resources from celestial bodies. Mars has vast deposits of valuable minerals and metals. It has water ice that could be mined and processed. It has a position in space that makes it an ideal way station for missions to the asteroid belt, and are asteroids containing trillions of dollars worth of platinum, rare earth elements, and other valuable materials. Some economists have calculated that the first successful Mars mining operations could create the first trillionaires. The economic opportunities are truly staggering. But it's not just about mining. Mars would need everything that any human society needs: construction, manufacturing, food production, energy generation, transportation, communications, entertainment, education, healthcare, the list goes on. Every single one of these needs represents a business opportunity. The first pizza restaurant on Mars, the first Martian sports league, the first Mars-based movie studio, the first Martian university. Think about it. Every major company on Earth started somewhere. McDonald's started as a single restaurant. Apple started in a garage. Amazon started as an online bookstore. The first businesses on Mars would have the same potential to grow into something enormous. And because Mars would initially be a relatively small, closely knit community, there would be opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship that simply don't exist on Earth anymore. On Earth, every market is crowded and competitive. On Mars, you'd be creating entirely new markets from scratch. Dr. Peter Diamandis, founder of the X Prize Foundation, predicts the first trillionaire will be made in space. The resources available in our solar system are essentially unlimited, and Mars is the gateway to accessing them. But beyond the economic opportunities, let me tell you about something even more profound: the opportunity for personal growth and self-actualization. On Earth, most of us spend our lives in relatively comfortable but ultimately constrained circumstances. We go to school, get jobs, pay bills, follow established paths. We're cogs in vast systems that we have little control over. But Mars colonists, they would be building everything from scratch. Every day would present new challenges that require creative solutions. Every person would be essential to the survival and success of the colony. You couldn't just coast through life. You'd need to actively contribute, learn, adapt, and grow. Psychologists who study extreme environments, like Antarctic research stations, have found that people often report their time in these challenging environments as the most meaningful and growth-promoting experiences of their lives. They develop skills, confidence, and a sense of purpose that they never found in conventional society. Mars would be that experience amplified 1,000-fold. You'd be part of humanity's greatest adventure, contributing to something larger than yourself, developing capabilities you never knew you had. Dr. Cheryl Bishop, a psychologist who studies isolated and confined environments, notes, "The people who thrive in extreme environments are often those who feel stifled by conventional society. They need challenge, purpose, and the opportunity to test themselves. Mars would provide all of that in abundance." Now, let's address some of the criticisms and concerns that skeptics raise about Mars colonization. Critics often point out that Mars is hostile, dangerous, and requires constant life support. They argue that it would be easier to solve Earth's problems than to colonize Mars. And they're right that Earth is facing serious problems. Climate change, environmental degradation, resource depletion, overpopulation. These are all real challenges that need to be addressed. But here's the thing. It's not either or. We can work on solving Earth's problems and expand to Mars. In fact, the technologies we develop for Mars colonization could help solve Earth's problems. The life support systems, closed-loop recycling, renewable energy, and efficient resource use that we develop for Mars would all be useful on Earth. Mars colonization could drive innovation that benefits everyone. And there's another point that's often overlooked. Keeping all of humanity on one planet is incredibly risky. No matter how careful we are, Earth faces existential threats. Asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, nuclear war, engineered pandemics. Any of these could potentially end human civilization. By becoming a multi-planet species, we dramatically reduce the risk of extinction. We create a backup for human civilization. We ensure that even if something catastrophic happens to Earth, humanity will survive. Dr. Stephen Hawking, before his death, argued, "I don't think the human race will survive the next 1,000 years unless we spread into space. There are too many accidents that can befall life on a single planet." Some critics argue that the money spent on Mars colonization would be better spent solving problems on Earth. But this argument misunderstands economics. The money isn't being sent to Mars, it's being spent on Earth, creating jobs, advancing technology, and driving innovation. The Apollo program cost about $280 billion in today's money, but it returned an estimated $8 for every dollar invested through technological spin-offs, economic growth, and educational benefits. The GPS systems we use every day, satellite communications, computer miniaturization, water purification systems, all of these came from space program investments. Mars colonization would likely have even greater returns because it requires solving more complex problems and developing more advanced technologies. And here's something else to consider. Humanity has always expanded into new frontiers. It's part of our nature as a species. Our ancestors left Africa and spread across every continent. They crossed oceans, climbed mountains, explored polar regions, often at great risk and with no guarantee of success. Mars is simply the next frontier, and throughout history, expanding into new frontiers has driven human progress, innovation, and cultural development. Dr. Robert Zubrin writes, "The challenge of Mars will inspire young people to pursue careers in science and engineering, just as the Apollo program did in the 1960s. The benefits to human civilization will extend far beyond the physical colony on Mars." Now, let me tell you about the timeline for Mars colonization, because this isn't some far future fantasy. This is happening in your lifetime. NASA is planning to send humans to Mars in the 2030s or early 2040s. SpaceX is developing the Starship rocket specifically for Mars missions and aims to land humans on Mars even sooner, possibly by the early 2030s. These aren't vague plans, they're active programs with real hardware being built right now. SpaceX has already conducted multiple test flights of Starship. NASA is developing the technologies needed for long-duration spaceflight and Mars surface operations. Within the next 10 to 20 years, we could see the first humans landing on Mars. Within 30 to 50 years, we could have permanent settlements with thousands of people. Within this century, Mars could have cities with populations in the millions. This is happening. The question isn't if humans will colonize Mars, but when and whether you want to be part of it. Elon Musk has stated his goal is to establish a self-sustaining city of 1 million people on Mars by 2050. That might sound ambitious, but consider this: the technology needed already exists or is in development. The main challenges are engineering and economic, not fundamental science. And the cost is coming down rapidly. SpaceX estimates that once Starship is fully operational, the cost of transporting cargo to Mars could drop to as low as $100,000 per ton. At that price, Mars colonization becomes economically feasible in a way it never was before. Some researchers even suggest that within your lifetime, ordinary people might be able to afford a one-way ticket to Mars, similar to how European settlers paid for passage to America in the 1800s. You might work to pay off your ticket once you arrive, or you might receive sponsorship from a company that needs workers on Mars. Dr. Pascal Lee, chairman of the Mars Institute, predicts, within this century, Mars could become a legitimate choice for people looking to start new lives, pursue opportunities, or participate in humanity's greatest adventure. It won't be for everyone, but it will be possible for those who want it. Now, let's talk about what daily life might actually be like on Mars, because this is where imagination meets reality. Imagine waking up in your habitat module. The lighting gradually brightens to simulate sunrise, helping maintain your circadian rhythm. You're in a private sleeping compartment, not huge but comfortable and well-designed, with personal storage and entertainment systems. You get dressed in comfortable indoor clothing. Inside the habitat, the temperature is perfectly controlled at your preferred setting. The air is clean and fresh, better quality than most cities on Earth. You head to the common area for breakfast. The food is grown in the colony's hydroponic farms, fresh vegetables, grains, maybe even fish from aquaculture systems. It's nutritious and, contrary to what you might expect, delicious. Mars colonists take pride in their cuisine, developing unique recipes and cooking styles using available ingredients. After breakfast, you head to work. Maybe you're an engineer maintaining the colony's life support systems. Maybe you're a geologist studying Martian rocks and soil. Maybe you're a farmer tending the hydroponic gardens. Maybe you're a construction worker helping expand the habitat. Maybe you're a teacher educating the colony's children. Whatever your job, it's essential to the colony's survival and success. There's no make work or pointless bureaucracy. Every person contributes something meaningful. During your lunch break, you might video chat with family and friends on Earth, though you have to plan around the communication.
Or you might relax in the colony's recreation area, which includes exercise facilities, game rooms, and social spaces. In the afternoon, maybe you suit up for an EVA, an extravehicular activity, to work outside the habitat. You step through the airlock and emerge onto the Martian surface. And here's where the magic happens. You're standing on an alien world. The sky is butterscotch-colored during the day. The sun appears about 2/3 the size it does on Earth. The landscape stretches to the horizon in rust reds and browns, ancient volcanoes, vast canyons, boulder fields, and distant mountains. You can see Phobos, Mars' larger moon, moving rapidly across the sky. It orbits so quickly that it rises and sets twice in one Martian day. At night, you can see Deimos, the smaller moon, and stars so clear and bright they take your breath away. And there, shining like a brilliant blue star, is Earth. Home, but no longer your only home. After your EVA, you return inside, clean up, and head to dinner. The colony gathers in the common dining area, maybe 50 or 100 people in your particular habitat module. Meals are social events, chances to share stories, discuss problems, plan projects. After dinner, you have free time. Maybe you pursue hobbies, art, music, writing, gaming. Maybe you work on personal projects or continuing education. Maybe you just relax and socialize with friends. And here's something special. On Mars, everyone knows everyone. The community is small enough that you're not anonymous. You have real connections with people. You're part of something meaningful. Before sleep, maybe you take a moment to video record a message to family on Earth, or write in your journal, or just look out at the Martian landscape and reflect on the incredible fact that you're living on another planet. This is what daily life on Mars could be like. Not a survival nightmare, but a challenging, meaningful, purposeful existence as part of humanity's greatest adventure. Dr. Kim Stanley Robinson, who has written extensively about Mars colonization, describes it this way: life on Mars would be hard work, but it would be good work, the kind that makes you feel alive and purposeful. It's the difference between being a passive consumer in an established society and being an active builder of something new. Now, let me address one final important question. What about the psychological challenges of living on Mars? Critics often point out that the isolation, confinement, and distance from Earth could cause serious psychological problems. And they're not wrong to be concerned. Mental health is a crucial factor in any long-duration space mission. But here's what research has shown. Humans can adapt to extreme environments remarkably well if certain conditions are met. Studies of people living in Antarctic research stations, submarine crews, and astronauts on the International Space Station have identified key factors that promote psychological health in isolated environments. First, a sense of purpose and meaningful work. When people feel they're contributing to something important, they handle challenges much better. Second, social connection and community. Humans need relationships and social bonds. A well-designed Mars colony would foster strong communities. Third, some degree of autonomy and control over their environment. People need to feel they have choices and can influence their circumstances. Fourth, adequate communication with loved ones. Modern technology would allow Mars colonists to stay in touch with Earth despite the distance. Fifth, recreation, entertainment, and opportunities for personal growth. Mars colonies would need to provide diverse activities and opportunities. And sixth, proper habitat design with adequate space, natural lighting, and connection to the external environment. When these factors are present, research shows that people not only cope with extreme environments, they often thrive in them. Many people who spend time in Antarctic stations or on long submarine deployments report that these were among the most meaningful and satisfying periods of their lives. Dr. Jack Stuster, who has studied the psychology of isolated and confined environments for decades, concludes, with proper selection, training, and habitat design, humans can live successfully in space for extended periods. The key is creating environments that meet psychological needs, not physical ones. And Mars has some psychological advantages that are often overlooked. Unlike astronauts on the International Space Station, Mars colonists wouldn't be in zero gravity. The 38% gravity would make them feel more grounded and normal. Unlike Antarctic bases, Mars colonies would have the excitement of being on an alien world with genuine exploration and discovery happening constantly. There's also the pioneer effect, the psychological boost that comes from being part of something historic and meaningful.
Full. Mars colonists would know they're helping to establish humanity's future as a spacefaring civilization. That sense of purpose and significance would be incredibly powerful psychologically. And here's something fascinating. Some psychologists suggest that Mars might actually be beneficial for certain personality types who struggle in conventional Earth society. People who are highly intelligent and creative often feel constrained by the bureaucracy, conformity, and routine of modern Earth civilization. They need challenge, novelty, and the opportunity to use their full capabilities. Mars would provide exactly that. Dr. Philip K. Chapman, a former NASA astronaut and geophysicist, writes,
Mars will attract the bold, the creative, the unconventional, people who are willing to take risks for the chance to build something new. These are often the people who drive human progress, and Mars will give them an environment where they can truly flourish. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough: what Mars colonization means for human evolution. On Earth, humans have largely stopped evolving in the traditional sense. Modern medicine, technology, and society protect us from the selection pressures that drove our evolution for millions of years. We're essentially frozen in evolutionary time. But on Mars, evolution would restart, and it would happen fast. Mars colonists would face different selection pressures than Earth humans. The low gravity, different day length, different radiation environment, different atmospheric pressure, all of these would favor certain traits over others. Over generations, Mars colonists would begin to diverge from Earth humans. They might become taller due to low gravity. Their bones and muscles might adapt to the 38% gravity environment. Their circadian rhythms might shift to match the 24.6-hour Martian day perfectly. Their cells might develop better radiation resistance. Within a few thousand years, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, Mars humans might become a distinct subspecies or even species. They might no longer be able to comfortably live on Earth because Earth's gravity would be too strong for them. And this raises fascinating questions. Would Mars humans and Earth humans still consider each other the same species? Would they develop different cultures, values, and ways of thinking? Would Mars become not just a colony of Earth, but a truly independent human civilization with its own identity? Dr. Scott Solomon, an evolutionary biologist, predicts, humans who settle Mars will begin evolving separately from Earth humans almost immediately. Within 10,000 to 20,000 years, they could be different enough that interbreeding becomes difficult or impossible. Mars could become the birthplace of a new species of human. This isn't science fiction, it's basic evolutionary biology. Separate populations in different environments inevitably diverge over time. Mars would create the conditions for human speciation. And this might be humanity's greatest advantage. Just as biodiversity makes Earth's ecosystems more resilient, having multiple branches of humanity on different worlds would make our species as a whole more resilient. Now, let me tell you about the spiritual and philosophical implications of Mars colonization, because this is deeper than just science and technology. For all of human history until the last few decades, humans have been confined to Earth. Every human who ever lived, every civilization that ever rose and fell, every war fought and peace achieved, every work of art created and scientific discovery made, all of it happened on this one small world. But Mars changes everything. Mars means humanity is no longer a single planet species. Mars means we're beginning to spread throughout the cosmos. Mars means we're taking our first real steps toward becoming a spacefaring civilization. This is a fundamental transformation in what it means to be human. We're transitioning from being Earthlings to being citizens of the solar system, and eventually, perhaps, citizens of the galaxy. Think about what that means for human consciousness and perspective. When you look up at the night sky from Earth, you see points of light, distant, abstract, unreachable. But when you look up from Mars, you see Earth, your species' homeworld, as just another point of light. You gain a cosmic perspective that fundamentally changes how you think about humanity, politics, and our place in the universe. Mars colonists would be the first humans to truly identify as something other than Earthlings. They would be Martians, not in the science fiction sense of little green men, but genuine human Martians who call the red planet home. This shift in identity and perspective could be exactly what humanity needs to mature as a species. On Earth, we're still
Divided by nations, religions, races, and ideologies. We fight over borders and resources and ancient grievances.
But from Mars, all of Earth's divisions seem petty and meaningless. From Mars, you see humanity as one species, sharing one small planet in an enormous universe. You realize that our similarities vastly outweigh our differences, and that we need to work together as a species to survive and thrive. Dr. Frank White, who coined the term overview effect to describe the consciousness shift that astronauts experience when viewing Earth from space, predicts, Mars colonization will create a Mars effect even more profound than the overview effect. It will fundamentally change human consciousness and help us evolve beyond our tribal, territorial thinking. And there's a deeper philosophical point here. Mars colonization is about ensuring that consciousness itself survives in the universe. Think about it. As far as we know, Earth is the only place in the universe where consciousness exists. The universe is vast, potentially infinite, but also apparently lifeless. Earth might be the only spot where matter has organized itself into beings capable of thinking, feeling, experiencing, and understanding. If something happens to Earth, consciousness could vanish from the universe entirely. The cosmos would continue existing, but there would be no one to experience it, understand it, or appreciate its beauty. But if we establish life on Mars and then on other worlds, we ensure that consciousness persists. We make it harder for the universe to slip back into unconsciousness. We guarantee that there will continue to be beings who can experience wonder, create beauty, and seek understanding. This isn't just about human survival. It's about ensuring that the universe continues to have meaning. Because a universe without consciousness is a universe without meaning, without beauty, without purpose. Dr. Carl Sagan wrote, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself." Mars colonization ensures that the universe will continue to know itself, even if Earth someday falls silent. Now, let me address one more critical advantage of Mars. It forces us to solve problems we've been avoiding on Earth. On Earth, we've developed a wasteful, unsustainable civilization because we've always had the option of just using more resources. We mine new deposits, drill new wells, clear new forests. When one area becomes polluted, we move to another. But this approach is reaching its limits. We're running out of easily accessible resources. We're filling the atmosphere with greenhouse gases. We're polluting the oceans and destroying ecosystems. And we're not making the hard choices necessary to become sustainable because we keep finding ways to delay and avoid the consequences of our actions. Mars won't allow that. On Mars, every resource is precious. Every drop of water must be recycled. Every breath of oxygen must be generated from local resources. Every calorie of food must be grown efficiently. Every bit of waste must be processed and reused. Mars colonists will be forced to create truly sustainable closed-loop systems where nothing is wasted and everything is recycled. These systems will need to function perfectly because failure means death. And once we perfect these systems on Mars, we can bring them back to Earth. The technologies and practices developed from Mars sustainability could help Earth become sustainable too. Dr. Chris McKay argues, Mars colonization is like having a practice planet. We can develop sustainable living systems on Mars, work out all the problems, and then apply those solutions to Earth before it's too late. This is already happening with some technologies. Solar power, water recycling, hydroponic agriculture, closed-loop life support, all of these are being developed for space applications, and all of them have applications on Earth. The International Space Station recycles 93% of all water used on board, including converting astronaut urine into drinking water. That same technology could help solve water scarcity on Earth. Mars colonies would push these technologies even further, creating systems that waste nothing and recycle everything. And there's another way Mars helps Earth, by providing resources. Long-term, Mars could supply Earth with rare resources that are scarce or environmentally damaging to extract on Earth.
Mars could serve as a manufacturing base for products that are easier to make in low gravity or space. Mars could provide fuel and supplies for missions to the asteroid belt, opening up essentially unlimited mineral resources. Some economists predict that within a century or 200 years, Mars could be supplying a significant portion of humanity's resource needs, taking pressure off Earth's strained ecosystems. Now, let's talk about something exciting. What happens after we establish Mars colonies? Because Mars
isn't the end goal, it's just the beginning. Once we've proven that humans can live on Mars, the entire solar system opens up to us. Mars becomes the jumping-off point for further exploration and colonization. The asteroid belt lying between Mars and Jupiter contains thousands of asteroids rich in valuable metals and minerals. Some asteroids contain more platinum, gold, and rare Earth elements than have ever been mined on Earth. With Mars as a base, accessing and mining these asteroids becomes much more practical. The moons of Jupiter and Saturn, Europa, Enceladus, Titan, these worlds might harbor life in their subsurface oceans. With Mars as a staging area, missions to these distant moons become much more feasible. Even the outer solar system, Uranus, Neptune, and beyond, becomes accessible when you have Mars as a way station for supplies and fuel. Mars transforms from being an impossible destination to being humanity's gateway to the solar system. And once we're spread throughout the solar system, we become truly resilient as a species. No single disaster could wipe out humanity because we'd be spread across dozens of worlds. Dr. Robert Zubrin envisions Mars is step one. Once we're on Mars, we prove that humans can live off Earth. Then we expand to the asteroids, the outer solar system, and eventually to other star systems. Mars is where we become a spacefaring civilization. And here's something that might surprise you. Mars colonization could actually accelerate the timeline for interstellar travel. Building starships capable of traveling to other star systems is incredibly difficult from Earth. The massive amounts of energy required, the enormous masses involved, the decades-long construction times, all of these are challenges. But building starships from Mars using Martian resources, launching from Mars's lower gravity, that's much more practical. Mars could become humanity's shipyard, where we build the vessels that will carry us to the stars. Within a few centuries, Mars might be launching missions to Alpha Centauri, Tau Ceti, and other nearby star systems. And those missions would carry not just Earth humans, but Mars humans too. People who have never lived on Earth, who consider Mars home, who are adapted to life in space. The descendants of the first Mars colonists could be the ones who establish humanity's presence among the stars. Now, I want to address something important. Who should go to Mars? Mars won't be for everyone. It will be challenging, dangerous, and require significant sacrifice. You'd be leaving behind everything familiar: friends, family, favorite places, the comfort of Earth's environment. But for the right people, Mars offers something that Earth increasingly cannot: genuine opportunity for adventure, meaning, and the chance to be part of something larger than yourself. Throughout history, certain types of people have always been drawn to frontiers. They're not satisfied with comfortable, conventional lives. They need challenge, need to test themselves, need to build something new. These people became the explorers, the pioneers, the settlers who expanded human civilization into new territories. They crossed oceans, climbed mountains, ventured into deserts and jungles and polar regions. Today, Earth has few frontiers left. Almost every place has been explored, mapped, and settled. The opportunities for genuine pioneering and exploration are limited. But Mars is the ultimate frontier. It's a whole planet waiting to be explored and settled. It offers challenges that will test human ingenuity, courage, and determination to their limits. If you're the kind of person who feels restless in conventional society, who wants to do something significant with your life, who's willing to take risks for the chance to be part of humanity's greatest adventure, then Mars might be calling you.
Dr. Robert Zubrin writes, "The people who go to Mars will be volunteers, people who choose to go because they want to be part of something magnificent. They'll be the best of humanity, brave, intelligent, creative, and driven to achieve great things." And here's something beautiful. Mars colonization is an inclusive endeavor. It doesn't matter where you're from, what your background is, what your race or religion or nationality is. What matters is your skills, your determination, and your willing to contribute to building something new. Mars could become the most diverse human society ever created, with people from every nation and culture working together toward common goals. The petty divisions that plague Earth would be irrelevant on Mars, where everyone is equally human and equally essential to the colony's success. Now let me paint you one final picture of why Mars matters, pulling together everything we've discussed. Imagine it's the year 2050. Mars has been settled for over a century. The population has grown to several million people living in dozens
of settlements across the planet. In Mariner Valley, the enormous canyon system that dwarfs Earth's Grand Canyon, a city has been built into the cliff walls. Multi-level habitats carved into the rock provide radiation protection, while huge transparent domes on the valley floor allow colonists to experience something like outdoor living. Trees grow in these domed parks, breathing oxygen into the recycled atmosphere. At the Martian North Pole, ice mining operations extract water that's distributed throughout the planet's settlements. The water fuels agriculture, provides drinking water, and is split into hydrogen and oxygen, fuel, and breathable air. In the Tharsis region, near the massive volcano Olympus Mons, industrial facilities use Martian resources to manufacture everything the settlements need. Steel from iron-rich soil, glass from silicates, plastics from carbon dioxide, rocket fuel from water and atmospheric CO2. Children born on Mars have never seen Earth except as a bright star in the sky. They're the first generation of genuine Martians, people who think of the red planet as home. They're slightly taller than Earth humans due to low gravity, and their bones and muscles have adapted to Martian conditions. Scientists are actively terraforming Mars, slowly transforming it into a more Earth-like world. They're releasing greenhouse gases to warm the planet, melting polar ice to create liquid water, and slowly building up the atmosphere. This process will take centuries, but Mars humans think in terms of centuries. They're patient. And everywhere on Mars, in every settlement, there's a sense of purpose and progress that Earth increasingly lacks. People are building not just for themselves, but for future generations. Every structure erected, every hectare of farmland established, every scientific discovery made, all of it contributes to humanity's long-term future among the stars. Back on Earth, people look at Mars with a mixture of envy and pride. Envy for the adventures and opportunities that Mars offers, pride that humanity has achieved something so magnificent. And Mars has benefited Earth in countless ways. Technologies developed for Mars have helped Earth become more sustainable. Resources from Mars and the asteroids have eased pressure on Earth's environment. The perspective gained from having humans living on another world has helped Earth humanity mature politically and philosophically. Most importantly, Mars has ensured that humanity's future is secure. Even if something catastrophic happens to Earth, human civilization will survive on Mars. And from Mars, it will eventually spread throughout the solar system and beyond. This is the future that Mars colonization makes possible. This is why Mars matters. This is why, despite all the challenges and risks, we must take this step. Because Mars isn't just about survival. It's about growth, evolution, and realizing humanity's full potential as a species. On Earth, we're limited by our planet's carrying capacity, by resource constraints, by the fact that we're all competing for the same finite space and resources. These limitations create conflict, inequality, and ultimately threaten our long-term survival. But in space, resources are essentially unlimited.
There are millions of asteroids containing more metals and minerals than humans could use in millennia. There's endless solar energy. There's room for quintillions of people to live comfortable, meaningful lives. Mars is how we begin accessing that abundance. Mars is how we transition from being a limited, earthbound species to being an unlimited, spacefaring civilization. And here's the most important point. This isn't about choosing between Earth and Mars. It's about expanding our options, creating redundancy, and ensuring that humanity thrives no matter what challenges we face. We should absolutely work to protect and heal Earth. We should reduce pollution, combat climate change, preserve biodiversity, and create sustainable systems. Earth will always be important as humanity's birthplace and the center of our civilization. But we should also expand beyond Earth. We should establish colonies on Mars, settlements throughout the solar system, and eventually missions to other stars. Not because we're giving up on Earth, but because we're securing humanity's long-term future. Dr. Elon Musk summarizes it perfectly. I think there are two paths forward. One is we stay on Earth forever, and then there will be some eventual extinction event. The alternative is to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species. I think that's the right way to go. So here's my challenge to you. Think seriously about what role you want to play in humanity's future. Maybe you'll be part of the generation that settles Mars. Maybe you'll develop technologies that make Mars colonization possible. Maybe you'll be a scientist studying Mars or an engineer designing Mars habitats. Maybe
Or you'll be an artist or writer, helping people understand what Mars means for humanity. Or maybe you'll simply be someone who supports and celebrates this great endeavor, understanding that Mars colonization represents humanity at its best, daring, innovative, forward-thinking, and determined to overcome any challenge. Because make no mistake, Mars colonization will happen. The question isn't if, but when, and whether you want to be part of it. The first humans will land on Mars probably within the next 10 to 15 years. Permanent settlements will be established within 20-30 years. Your children or grandchildren could be Martians, living on another world, calling the red planet home. This is happening now. This is real. This is humanity's next great chapter. And it all starts with understanding that Mars isn't just some distant, hostile world. It's an opportunity, a chance for humanity to grow beyond the limits that have constrained us for our entire history, a chance to build something new and better, a chance to ensure that consciousness continues in the universe, no matter what challenges we face. Mars is humanity's future, and that future is closer than you think. So the next time you look up at the night sky and see that reddish point of light, remember, that's not just another planet. That's humanity's second home. That's where we're going. That's where some of us will live, work, raise families, and build a civilization that could last for millions of years. Mars is waiting, and humanity is ready. Are you?